Well, hello there, everyone. You have right here talk about right here, for what we know and from what we don't know, and this right here, basically, that I don't know if I would call it, what you call is like a, the sequel, part two or anything like that, but basically, that this talks about right here is like for anything that I'm sure most of us have heard that before, to where that somebody says that they dropped the plan, they dropped the situation or anything such as that anybody who's going to be attending any type of school or anything like that, or maybe working somewhere, or maybe like being a part of a group or something like that. But they may say something like to where that they quit or they dropped out, and I know like especially if you're going to be applying for like financial aid, that some some of the kids like teens that whenever they do set their plans to be able to go to college, and they're like warned to where that they have a lot of the plans set, and then 5 years later, they decide to go to college for maybe for a semester, but then they drop out. So sometimes you're like Warren, to where that what does that basically mean? Is to where that whenever you drop out, and I know that quite a few kids like Warren, to where that yeah, that maybe a few questions was not really related to about that yeah, that what are the policies about dropping out, especially for dropout students or anything like that. Like that that for about the rules about whenever you do drop out, maybe for the quarter of so or the year, are you allowed to go back? So I know a few students that may ask that question, but then a lot of times, the answer is not really to where that, oh, the parents will say that, well, it's, you'll be able to go back or so, that maybe by the next year. But on the other hand, it seems like whenever kids, whenever they grow up, at that thinking about, after they turn, over the age of 14 or 15, they like decide to where they think they can do whatever they want, whenever, especially whenever they're teenagers. Whenever they're teenagers, that they may think that they can watch a PG-13 movie, or that if it's anything related to thinking about as to where that things that that any teenager can do whenever they are a teenager, that yeah, that they could stay up late at night, or they can maybe go partying with some of their friends or so. But that thinking about one of those would be is to where that for like anybody who's going to have maybe a 15 or 16-year-old is thinking about, is to where that they decide to drop out of school, or they decide to quit a job or some sort. So you have some examples right here, some pictures right here, and the way I would arrange these right here would be like, say, for 10 days. So for what we do know and what we don't know, and that guy here right here is like we're seniors. So I know that while I was working some of this Photoshop work, I was also thinking about, like, a few people would probably like to see maybe some other examples too. I did post up on YouTube, like on my channel, that I'm sure most of us have seen from the other activities I worked, were like one of those that was about I think two of them that I know I did not decided not to upload. One of those was financially, and the other one the other two other ones that I posted up. But on your hand that you see right here is with it, these pictures right here. I know that the last one I put up, I think, was the gold monument. But anyway, but you see right here are some of these pictures right here of childhood memories, and I know that that another set of photos I used, that for like talking about, it's like for the the proud that the proud proud earnings, it was talking about the teachers. But anyway, but you see right here is that with these pictures right here, I don't know if most if anybody has seen this picture right here of what I would look like, and it's like and I have right here is for seniors. So I use these pictures right here. If anybody were warned to where that you would use those, just kind of keeping memories as to where ever since you were a baby, and ever since ever since you were in the fourth and fifth grade, and then on to going off to the middle school years, and as well as the high school years, and off to college. And we're wondering to where, what do we usually tell our to tell our parents about is to where that, the parents though that they may warrant to where that a lot of times that something or that is worked out with if it's going to be with financial aid and thinking about is to where that they may respond to a question such as, well, I dropped out or so you're like Warren to where, what do we usually say to where about the kids though is to where that the kids they decide to drop out of school or drop out of the event just because they were not treated right, or that it was a lot harder than what it was expected, a lot difficult than what was expected. So some of the information I went ahead and showed right here were like mail. So I know that like with anybody that almost anything that you do that really that you're going to maybe get a paper document or an email or some sort just based on keeping updated about stuff. But let's just say that on average, to where if we were to go outside and maybe find a feather on the ground, that may be a little bit of a different story. But on the other hand, that a feather on the ground, what does that basically mean? Does that mean that, it doesn't, I don't think it necessarily means to where a kitten lost its mitten or anything like that, but, more likely means is to where that, it could also mean that, maybe chance of like, I don't know, good luck, or maybe that the birds are freed or, anything like that, or maybe giving us the opportunity to know to explore about what's outside to where anything that we may find outside. And you're like Warren to where anything that you get in the mail, if you don't get it every day, then it's possible, exactly. Anybody probably say that they get their membership card and then 5 days later that they're going to go ahead and get a bill and they're not looking forward to that. So anybody that may warrant to where, yeah, well, just same way. Whenever whenever you buy a car, get your license, or maybe whenever you start running a business or some sort, that you're going to expect to wear a few things that you don't really like to see, and what you're not looking forward to getting. And like with anybody that you say this, like, when do you think that you want to keep that smile on your face, huh? So you're like Warren to where that anything that you may mention is to where that playing a musical instrument is like talk about like for how to respond to any questions. One of those will be is to where that, yeah, well, you still gotta pay back your loans, as well as that you gotta keep us informed about any changes going on on files or anything like that. But I could also mention too is to where like on a fax machine that I remember I was introduced to a fax machine, not from a job, but I can remember that to where that technology has been around, I think, since early of 1989, I would say. So like with a fax machine, whenever I first started using a fax machine, that I kind of looked at that as to where that you're turning in my homework to the teacher so she can grade it, and anybody that may want to where that, yeah, that you start talking about something, and you're given about maybe two or three different options, and then it's like warrant to where you're going to either fax it or mail it or maybe send it by email or some sort. But on your hand too, that for like drops and for like whenever we say drop, and basically that basically means like with anybody that you open up a bill and then you turn the pages and you have right here is like the pages could say a number of things. It's like such as much more that you open up a little envelope and then you may see something kind of like this right here to where that it contains about maybe 3 pages or so. Yeah, it could maybe be yeah, medical insurance. It can maybe be other sources of letters or some sort, by taxes, food stamps, or anything like that. And we wonder half the time as to where that when we get this mail to where that really I'm like to where how to be bothered with it is to where that something that was dropped from the case, such as to where that you get on an insurance plan or some sort, like let's just say if it's car insurance, and then they may stage to where that they never received a payment from you or some sort, or something that had failed to come in, so they say that you are no longer qualified for this until you update the information on a database or anything like that. And I included right here are some examples right here of like schooling. So I know a lot of the paperwork I go through, and like with anybody that if you're going to be young and thinking that yeah, but how old were you whenever you first started filing your papers? And since I'm filing my taxes and especially my work papers and stuff like that, and especially going to school, and then I know other sources of documents, and I am also talking about as to where other sources of documents, such as maybe if it was taking care of something related to the car or something that you may have bought at the store or somewhere. So you're like Warren, to where that you would not think that you would have a whole lot of paperwork, some paperwork that was in file that maybe had forgotten that was in there, or some papers. And I'm sure, like with anybody, that there's going to be papers, I guess, for like a marriage license. And I know that, like with anybody, that if you're going to be married or have kids, that it's like you're going to have papers, and you're like Warren, to where that with all these papers though is to where that if we could all keep notes of what all that need to be done, I guess that seems like a whole lot of writing. So I guess really does really everybody have all that time for that? But on their hand, that with this information here, that they may say is to where it's available online anytime, or that they would mail you like a booklet. It's like a little binder, just to keep a few things organized. So it just seems like to where, like I mentioned that before, to where that I have seen a lot of this stuff ever since I was 17 years old. I had seen quite a few of these things. So that's just a thing. Whenever you start a job, and then whenever you get enrolled at maybe at a school or maybe an insurance company, that you're going to have a lot of these if you want to call it responsibilities, and keeping track of the papers and for what needs to be updated. And the way I think about it, though, is like really that like I usually say, is to where given just to be able to gain experience, like the opportunity to where that to be aware. And I know that like I may usually tell anybody to where that does that bother you to be able to get these sources of information in the mail, maybe two pieces of mail at the same time, maybe two pieces of mail in the same delivery service, and then you open up the mail and there's a letter, maybe from about your taxes, or it could be about the school or some sort. And we're like Warren, to where that really, whenever you look at that, doesn't that bother? I'm like, well, now and I usually say I'm pretty prepared for it, and knowing about how to handle it. That I'm just thinking about that there's nothing really severe really going on, such as to where that yeah, that anything real serious. But until that time comes, that yeah, that just knowing about for what we got to do, especially to where, like with anybody, if it's going to be maybe for personal property tax, or anything such as mortgage payments or anything like that, I'm sure that anybody would more likely say is to where that they almost anything you can think of that comes to their mailbox. And at the time, you're like Warren, to where that yeah, that groceries on like sales catalogs and stuff like that come in the mail. But at the time, you're like Warren, to where, well, really having a mailbox online, but still, that electronic mail, there may be some things that maybe you don't want to see, or if anything that you get something in the mail. But the way I think about it, though, is like I usually try to think about is to where that have having that capability to be able to manage it on my own time being, is knowing about for what I gotta do. And that's usually when I think about it too, is to where whenever I get some mail, like maybe if it's a bill or some sort, I don't really look at the price tag as what you call the biggest migraine. What I usually look at is to where that I have like a little writing notebook that I usually use, and I write down the cost and knowing about for what I can. And then I usually say is to where that if I want to do something creative, such as maybe draw a picture for what the plan is or anything like that, or I'm sure most of us have seen from my other previous videos, is to where that I talk about is to where how I handle the expenses. And I just really think though is to where that that whenever you look at a bill, are we necessarily thinking about the cost of it, or maybe just thinking about if it's pretty neat just to say is to where that that after you turn 18 that you want to have that the date have your name, and then knowing about as to where that the services that you bill for, as well as for any type of a student's source of information, stuff like that. But right here is like tougher for much more. So the way I think about it, though, is to where any student that may think is to where if this gets to be too out of hand, and then that may be another reason to why they want to say that they quit, because that it was getting too expensive and they got tired of the paperwork, and then that maybe that maybe the phone calls or anything like that. So I'm sure there's a number of reasons to why that maybe a student would say is to where that they had a lot of things planned, and even with the financial aid paperwork that that they sign sign papers, and then they're like warned or that hey, this is my major, this is how much I'm able to come up with. And I know that like with anybody is especially if you're going to be working part-time or full-time, and then maybe going to school or some sort, that you're like warned to where that sometimes it whenever we say that we drop something, that basically means is to where I guess some people may use it as to where it's like you say they quit, that they quit because that they got tired of all the stress and anxiety. And for anybody that may warrant where does drop necessarily mean is to where that place whatever object that you're carrying, if it's going to be maybe a form or a packet or something like that, you drop it in the bin, and you're like warrant to where please don't confuse it. It says to drop it in the bin. Please put it in the bin. Don't. That does not mean forget. Don't put it in the bin. Forget about it. You don't have to do it. So yeah, if anybody wants to add an extra P, onto drop right here, but still that anybody like wanted to, or yeah, use right here's the blue right here. Like anybody say that, just to kind of keep in in memories to where that that if you want to add an extra P to that, for drop, drop. But on your hand to drop, I guess basically means if you want to use that phrase is to where that you changed your mind, you're not going to do it, and then drop, such as drop. I guess basically means like, well, please place that in the bin. Please, just to be able to complete this delivery, drop it in the bin. But anyway, but really, that some students that use that word such as that they drop out. Really, how does that look on your senior picture? I'm like, for most seniors, that back whenever I was a senior in school, that really that anybody like wanted to where that this is your last year or so, that you only have about maybe 3 or 4 different classes, to 3 or 5 classes to go, and knowing about how well you're doing. And I know other students that they may say is to where they got their reasons to why that they drop out, they quit, or that they decide that they're going to go ahead and take a 8-week break from the semester or some sort. So at the time, for any questions, they'll more likely remain about that. And what does that make us look like whenever we say that we dropped out? I'm like, some that may say, really, I'm like, does that make you feel good about yourself, for any reason? I'm like, the way you respond to that, it's like, you must feel pretty good about yourself, huh? Like, well, since you dropped out, then I guess you can go out and get a job. But anybody that may say that, that somebody finds out, they didn't find out until about 3 weeks later about what really happened, and so you're like warned to where you must feel pretty good about yourself, don't you? Like knowing about it, it's like to where that you dropped out. We thought maybe you were attending that event or so. So I'm like anybody that may warrant to where that drop basically means is to where that they drop out, or other than they say yeah, between that maybe the cough drop or some sort, but maybe a drop of a mustard, or maybe a drop of ketchup and mustard, whichever. But the way I think about it, though, is that really for any students or anybody that if you're going to be working something, what does that make us look like on our part side of the story, to where that for changes is like, and I also include this right here, is like for short notice. So let's just say that we were working on something and it was in like 10 days or so. That there's going to be maybe a change of plan. I guess most of us can maybe assume that, to where that while we're working on something, and then the next thing you know, it's like 10 days later, that seems like it kind of flips around, to where you get a letter in the mail stating that there's been another change. So we can't really keep the same goal for any more than 30 days or so. That maybe after 10 days something's going to change. But and I know that, like with anybody, we're going to be changing our mind. But on the other hand, that's the way I think about it too, is to where that for how we use drop, is to where that any projects or any work that we might more likely will be doing in school and as well as on a job, we decided not to use it. And a lot of my reasons why I don't use all my work, of course, was because it's like, really, that sometimes I guess you can say, is to where that I for any decisions that I do make about all my projects, that I also think about as to where how many that was already posted already, and as well as for if I'm really proud to present it to a few of the people, the viewers that are watching, and as well as that for any anything that I may recommend that was not finished or not. So I may have reasons to why that anybody says, like doing a speaking and write, as to where why is it that you did not present all the work that you were working on. And I know that there's been about 2 or 3 other videos from this last week that I did not post up on YouTube, but on their hand too would be on the the screencast, what I call the screencast library. So the way I think about it, though, is like for for short notice, and basically like knowing about for, if we're aware of knowing about anything that's gonna be changing, such as no longer. And I know that anybody that may say, like, you may hear that before, between no longer and quit or anything like that, whenever you whenever you agree to retrieve your statements electronically, especially, to where you may get an email stating, on a phone, or and like with anybody that they may warrant, to where really, what is the difference between an Android and a smartphone? I was thinking about doing a video about that too, but I'm like, well, really, that there's a lot, and I can tell anybody here that there's a lot of information I could maybe provide, but then it's like thinking about as to where that really that and I know for anybody who's watching that they may say as to where that yeah, that are you about out of information? I'm like, well, if you like to post a comment, I'm like, let me know what you think. But anyway, but you see right here is like for the rights and responsibilities and understanding about the rights regarding graduation. So upon the rights of the account and the inform whom which is scheduled pay. So let's just say that a lot of the paper documents that we may get in the mail, and I usually say by much more. So whenever I look at my mail, that usually I put it in file, but sometimes it's like anybody that may warrant to her that, yeah, well, the good news is like, yeah, that the mail was delivered, but then now the bad news is that you got to deal with the bill or arrangements or some kind. But no matter if it's buying a new car, with the car, dealing with the car payment or mortgage payments and taxes. So I guess anybody that may warrant to where that you should not even be getting a bill related to your taxes. So I'm like, well, I'm sure most of us have seen them before, from the state or from the from the government, from the IRS. I'm sure that we have seen bills coming related to our taxes before, and one of those would be as to where that, yeah, that if you were paid if you made more money than what you were putting from last year's, then more likely it's possible, or that they may say as to where that no, it's by the time you file your taxes next year, then more likely that it's going to come out of the account automatically. But and I know, like with anybody, that it seems like a lot of times that whenever we start working on something and like knowing about for a drop, and knows like for how we say that we dropped the case, so we drop, we it basically means as to where it did not make it to the final project. So so that so far as I guess you say said and done, as to where that whenever we're thinking about these pictures right here, and that everything seems to be all working fine right here at this moment, right? Right here, I'm like, yeah, this will be me, Matthew, right here. And like, yeah, that everything seems to be going fine. In these pictures right here, to where that, yeah, I look pretty happy and, glad to be, attending school or some sort. But really, that you go to the next page, and it seems like to where things are in a red mark right here, to where that no longer, or any papers, or you say you quit, and you're like Warren, to where that I don't know if we call it maybe the thumb down or something like that, two thumbs down, such as horrible or anything like that. But on your hand, you're like Warren, to where what went wrong? I'm like, and then this right here will be like something that we can maybe keep on file too, is to where example right here of any source of paper, paperwork or documents or anything like that. So let's just say that this right here, say no longer, is to where one of those could be for qualified. I can maybe also right here for qualified. So yeah, I just anybody like wanted to where about how old were you whenever you first started to learn how to write in cursive? But anyway, something like that. For qualified. So I'm sure we can read that a little bit, but I'm like, yeah, using right here is the pencil. But anyway, but there for qualified or no longer qualified, or you say that and I don't know anybody that may warrant to where that you're out or whatever. I'm like, I guess does that basically mean necessarily to where whenever you quit, that means that oh, you're out. Like, oh, you're off, you're out of the job, or you're off the project or some sort. But anyway, but these papers right here would maybe present as to where they're like with anybody, to where that whenever they read them, and then they may be thinking necessarily to where that, oh well, this is a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, that they we may see only maybe 3 examples right here of pages. So altogether, I would probably say I have found altogether about maybe, including the tax files, I would probably say about 350 pages or so. So I can go ahead and write this down right here. Maybe about about on average, it's about 350 or so pages. So altogether, yeah, about 350 or so pages worth of documents that I may have found on file. So thinking about this is to where 350 pages, some of them that may include like maybe a bill or some sort, or some of them that may also include as to where there's been a change of plan, or that that they found out later on that you're not skilled to be qualified for. So there may be a number of reasons about these forms right here. So whenever we think about it, it's like for much, much more. Whenever you go out and buy, yeah, that it seems like getting a bill in the mail is totally different compared to buying a Blu-ray. And I can tell anybody here that like Blu-rays or DVD movies or anything like that, that a lot of things that may come in the package with the movie, coupons and maybe memberships, for Disney, the Disney, online or anything like that. So you're all thinking about, from what the moods that we could be in, as to where after we go out and buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, and then it's like compared to what you call getting, any type of paperwork in the mail, that may be a little bit different. But I guess the point to making it is to where that, yeah, that we open up something that I guess is it most common to where that we would find more than what we expect in the package. And what more what we may expect? Well, one of those would be is to where that they are missing a payment. They're wanting you to call them back as soon as possible, or they're missing something, or that they're now saying that you failed to communicate with us about changes in the system. So it seems like to where they're like with anybody, is to where that senior more likely may represent is to where well you're the senior advisor for the team or some sort, or we're relying on you to keep us updated about any changes going on in the system. So think about it to where that sometimes about every 30 days or so, but let's say within 10 days. So we're like warning to where about every 10 days, it seems like to where that really that do what we can just to be able to keep all the papers all updated. So I know a lot of times that's whenever email works pretty good. That's whenever fax machines work pretty good. So I know with other sorts of technology, they may say, "Oh yeah, you may have you may have fun using it, just because you have one at home, but then on the other hand, that what's the reason to why you have it in the first place? Like, well, I use it for office reasons. So just thinking about it as to where these right here will be examples right here of me right here, and like if I were to be what you call enjoying this what you call television set, and let's just say that anybody that may warrant to where that yeah you recently gotten a VCR, and I know that or a DVD player. I'm just making an example to where you buy something, and then you're like Warren to where that you think necessarily to where it could be used for maybe part of educational source. So they ask you to watch a video, and then they want you to take a survey about it, and you're like Warren to where well I didn't get that DVD player to watch any survey related activity groups or anything like that. So you're like Warren to where okay, are you gonna just drop the case? Are you just gonna say you're not gonna do it? Like well, if you want to call it that, but anyway, there may be other ways of how we can say drop, but on the other hand, that really for how students mention is to where like for drop out and like learn to where like with any students is to where that which I'm sure that most students would maybe know is to where whenever they go to school is to where the chances are is to where a lot of you know yes, if we want to call it like deposit though, is to where that whenever we start going to school, that we may not think it's fair to have to pay whatever amount that's for like that which I know that they got the rules about that, which I heard that they got the rules about that to where that whenever a student that goes to school or so, or they make a deposit for like maybe the camping trip or a fishing trip or anything like that, maybe reserve tickets, maybe flights, they may reserve some flight tickets maybe to go somewhere and they cancel the trip at the last minute. So you contact the airlines and they say that well it's and more likely it's non-refundable. If you cancel plans at the last minute, then chances are that it's not going to be non-refundable. So the deposit could which I know like anybody, I'm sure most of us have been there to where that whenever you plan a vacation and then you had to cancel for some reason, that more likely is to where that the chances are of it being for it being refundable is to where that you cancel within about maybe 20 days or so ahead of time. So that might be a little bit different, compared to going to school. But I'm just saying is that anybody that may warrant or that that a lot of the things that we gather the money together with, if it's going to be maybe for a camping trip or flight arrangements or anything like that, vacations, summer vacation, is to where that some places if they don't get no 10-day notice or some sort, then more likely that they may say it's non-refundable. But anyway, but on the other hand, on top of for 10 days though, is that this right here basically means is to where how we would handle it to where if there's going to be a change of plan and knowing about a case that was dropped. So you're like weren't necessarily to where a case was dropped, huh? And think about what went wrong from here. Like anybody that may want to where you agreed to the terms and conditions of the use, and as well as you got forms information about whenever you graduate and anything that they may have told you, and they may say is to where you more likely have to complete, the first quarter or so of the year, or you may have to attend a few meetings or so just to be able to get, for what we call, it's like the gold monument. So that, for what I call the gold monument is. But anyway, but there you have it right there. Is talk about right here that for like for how we handle situations. I'm sure there's quite a lot to talk about, especially so. Like we wanted toward it. Yeah, for a number of postings that I have done these past 2 or 3 days or so, that I'm like, for anything updated that seems like to where that anybody that may warrant to where, yeah, you talk too much. But anyway, already over 30 minutes here. But if anybody knows as to where that for how we answer those questions as to where, why is it that we drop something? What does it usually mean whenever you drop? Whenever something's dropped, case is dropped, I guess it basically means as to where they decided not to do it, not to proceed with the work, or that there's been what you call that that they you decide you'll forget it, or they postponed it for later on. So that some that may say is to drop basically means is to allow that object to fall to the ground or so, or that it could also mean is to where that dropped out basically means that they quit. But the way I think about it, though, is like really that I try to say I'm not a quitter. I try to not give up and try to work hard, especially. But a lot of these pictures right here, whenever I think about these, I keep thinking about is to where that really that bright and intelligent young man, to where he thinks that he's going to go ahead and keep trying, and it really, what does it make it look on him, and as well as his parents, and as well as cousins or aunts or uncles or anybody else, his friends and family, what do they necessarily think about as to where whenever they find out as to where any questions and answers that remain about as to where his early career. And like more to where about Matthew, though, it's like really that there's going to be changes of which, for what we call it's like for the plan agenda, but on your hand, that it's like you're like Warren to where that they may charge you just for changing the story around, to where that you change your mind a lot of times. Sometimes something's changed so many times to where it's hard to remember a lot of that stuff. Something that you talked about from 2 days ago, you're trying to remember what it was because something that was changed already, something was changed. So you're trying to remember, you're trying to think and look back as to where what was decided before. So there's a lot of discussion. I know there's probably a lot of discussion to talk about for what for what I know and for what I don't know, but talk about for talk answers. And knowing about Roy, that I guess the main important agenda would be is to where that really is that for anything that's updated is to where are you still working on it, and I'm like, well, still working hard as I can on it, but for any time that such as jobs, and we weren't to where really has employment, has jobs been around since we were younger than the age of 18. Now I could probably tell anybody here that it seems like it, because back whenever I was young that you had chores around the house, right? But then they may say, were you aware of thinking about as to where anything that you were taught how to do your chores at home, especially clean the chimney and dusting the lamp, and as well as vacuuming the floors, taking out the trash, or anything, cleaning windows, that any chores around the house, and you're like, Warren, are those the same thing as what you call paying the bills? So I guess with anybody that they may say is toward that those are chores that are not what you call is toward, let's have some fun now. I go, well, what's fun about it, really? What is fun about cleaning the chimney and then dusting the lamp, or that you mopping the floor, or maybe clean the microwave? If most of us get the idea. But anyway, any chores that need to be done around the house, what's so fun about that? But really, I usually look at it as to where what all we can learn while we're doing these things. So that yeah, the dog that may pick up a paper may deliver our paper for us or whatever. But on the other hand, that the way I think about it, so is that really that being able to do a number of those things that more likely weren't, or anybody that may say that, maybe people may count on you just to be able to get the stuff done. And I know, like with anybody, as to where that is there any awards they're offered with that too, such as for like the gold monument. But anyway, it seems like that's just the way it is to where that for being an adult, is to where that being grown up, that you're going to have a number of responsibilities, and one of those will be is to where that you're going to have it to where that back whenever you were young, that you want to have your own your own area, your own desk, your own work desk where you can do your studies and stuff. But then at the time, you're like wearing to where what do you usually say is to where when people say that, well, you decide not to do something just because that you got tired of, it was getting too expensive, or, it was too much of a headache, or, hey, that they weren't treating you right, whichever it was. But, anyway, but that's enough. Say it's like already over 30 minutes here. But anyway, but thanks for watching your Man-Made 25, and just think about it. It's like for smart decisions, and like for hard work that we for what for what pays, and knowing about for best decisions for what we need to do. But other than that, like Man-Made 25, and thanks for watching. Have a great